Welcome to Pagoda Podcast, where we explore ideas, strategies, and insights to help businesses grow and scale.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So today we are doing a deep dive into something that honestly feels like a bit of a magic trick in the business world. We're talking about recurring revenue models and, why they matter so much for growth and valuation.
Yeah, the valuation side is where it gets really crazy.
Right. Because I want you, the listener, to just imagine two different companies for a second. They operate in the exact same industry. They have similar team sizes. And last year, they both brought in exactly $10 million in revenue.
Okay, a pretty level playing field.
Exactly. But here is the kicker. Yesterday, Company A sold for $12 million and Company B sold for $50 million.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, what invisible force makes the exact same amount of money on a spreadsheet 5 times more valuable in the real world?
It's the ultimate paradox in business valuation, really.
Okay, let's unpack this because we're pulling insights today from the architecture of predictable profitability along with some highly specific battle-tested strategies from Black Pagoda.
Yeah, and at Black Pagoda, the focus is really on redesigning company revenue structures for, long-term scalability.
Right. And the core premise here is that a dollar made from a one-time sale is just fundamentally different to a buyer than a dollar from a recurring system. But, I mean, why? Why do buyers actually open their wallets exponentially wider for one type of revenue over another?
Well, it really boils down to the mechanics of risk reduction. When an acquiring entity buys a business, they aren't actually buying your past success.
Right, the past is already done.
Exactly. I mean, they're thrilled you had a great run, but they are writing a check exclusively for what that business is going to do tomorrow, next month, and, 3 years from now. They are purchasing future cash flow.
And if your entire operation just relies on one-time sales,
Then you are asking that buyer to take a massive, unmitigated leap of faith.
because there's zero visibility, right? I mean, you have to just hope your marketing algorithms don't break or that your sales team doesn't burn out.
Yeah, or that macroeconomic demand doesn't just evaporate overnight. We operate in a world of extreme, relentless volatility.
Oh, absolutely. Supply chains fracture, consumer trends pivot in a weekend.
Precisely. So in that environment, predictability isn't just a nice-to-have metric, it is the ultimate currency. When a buyer evaluates a business with a mature, recurring revenue engine, they're buying that future cash flow with mathematical confidence.
The risk profile just drops off a cliff.
It really does. It plummets.
So I was reviewing the Black Pagoda strategies, and I want to run an analogy by you just to see if this captures the psychology of it.
Sure. Let's hear it.
Is relying on one-time sales essentially like being a hunter who has to start from absolute zero every single morning? Like you wake up, you grab your spear, and if you don't find anything in the woods that day, your family doesn't eat.
That is exactly what it feels like for a lot of founders.
Right. Whereas building recurring revenue is more like planting an orchard.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it takes massive effort up front to cultivate the soil and plant the trees, but eventually it yields fruit season after season. You know roughly how many apples you're going to get before the blossom even sets.
What's fascinating here is that the orchard analogy captures the buyer's operational mindset perfectly.
How so?
Well, if I am buying the hunter's business, I am inheriting high stress. I have to wake up every day and manage the anxiety of the hunt.
Which sounds exhausting.
It is. But if I'm buying the orchard, I can look at the historical yield data, see the predictable harvest, and, actually sleep soundly. And crucially, it changes how you deploy capital.
Wait, how so? Break down the capital deployment side of it.
So if you know you have a guaranteed contractual baseline of income arriving on the first of every month, you can make aggressive, long-term strategic decisions.
Like hiring or expanding.
Exactly. You can sign a 5-year lease on a new facility. You can hire top-tier R&D talent. You can invest in a massive new software platform.
And you can do all of that without the paralyzing fear of missing payroll if sales dip by 20% next quarter.
Exactly. That operational stability, the ability to forecast and invest with certainty, is exactly why predictable models command such a staggering premium.
Okay, so if the orchard is the ultimate goal, what kind of trees are we actually planting? Because the sources break this down into 3 distinct flavors of recurring revenue. Let's start with the most obvious one, subscriptions.
Right. We obviously all know what a streaming service or a gym membership is.
Yeah, I have way too many of both. But what is the actual mechanical advantage here from a valuation standpoint?
The mechanical advantage of a true subscription model is the complete reversal of psychological friction.
Psychological friction. Okay, explain that.
In a traditional transactional business, the default state of the relationship is neutral. To get paid, you have to overcome the friction of convincing the customer to pull out their credit card every single time.
Right, you have to win them over again and again.
Exactly. But the subscription model flips that entirely. Once the initial transaction occurs, the default state of the relationship is that they remain a paying customer in perpetuity.
Ah, so the friction is shifted from the act of buying to the act of canceling?
Precisely. To stop paying you, the customer now has to remember they have the subscription, log in, navigate through your retention offers, and actively hit cancel.
You've engineered inertia to work in your favor.
Yeah, rather than against you.
That makes total sense for software or digital media. But what about service-based businesses? Like, you can't exactly offer a monthly subscription to a corporate litigation attorney, right?
Well, no, not a standard subscription.
Right. Which brings us to the second flavor, retainers. But I have to admit, I've always viewed retainers suspiciously.
Really? Why is that?
Isn't a retainer just a bulk discount on hourly work? Like, you pay me $10,000 a month and I promise to work 50 hours for you. How does that increase valuation if it's still just trading time for money?
That's a very common misconception, actually. And it's honestly why many service businesses fail to scale.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A poorly structured retainer is exactly what you described. It's just prepaid hourly labor. But a highly valued retainer model shifts the client from paying for hours to paying for access and capacity.
Access and capacity. Okay, give me an example of that.
Think of a top-tier PR firm holding a crisis management retainer with a Fortune 500 company. The company isn't paying for 40 hours of work a month.
Right, because ideally there are no crises.
Exactly. They're paying a fixed premium to guarantee that the second a PR disaster strikes, that firm drops absolutely everything and handles it.
Ah, so it's more like an insurance policy.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
They're reserving your strategic capability, whether they fully utilize it that month or not, and that smooths out the severe revenue peaks and valleys that typically destroy service businesses.
So instead of having a massive influx of cash during a major project, followed by 3 terrifyingly slow months,
You have a robust retainer base that creates a steady, predictable floor of revenue, and that floor is what buyers value.
okay, I am totally with you on subscriptions and retainers, but this third flavor is where I really need to push back.
Okay, let's hear it.
The sources call it usage-based recurring revenue. Now, if the revenue fluctuates based on exactly how much a customer consumes in a given month, how on earth is that predictable?
Oh, that's a fair question.
Like, if I run a massive cloud computing platform and the economy takes a downturn, causing 1,000 startups to scale back their server usage, my revenue drops instantly. Where is the predictability in that?
It's a fantastic question. And it requires us to look at the macro versus the micro.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
The predictability in a usage-based model doesn't come from the micro level of daily individual consumption. It comes from the macro level law of large numbers, combined with a committed long-term infrastructure relationship.
Okay, explain the mechanics of that. How does the macro protect the bottom line?
Let's use your cloud computing example. At the micro level, yes, an individual startup's monthly invoice might swing wildly from $500 to $5,000.
Depending on their web traffic or whatever.
Exactly. But as the provider, you have engineered an infrastructure that makes it incredibly painful and expensive for that startup to migrate their data to a competitor.
Oh, they're completely locked into a long-term relationship with your ecosystem.
Precisely. And because you have thousands or even millions of these sticky customers, individual variance becomes statistically irrelevant. The averages stabilize beautifully.
So even if one company scales down, another is scaling up.
Yes.
And because they are all deeply integrated into my system, my aggregate monthly revenue across the entire portfolio remains remarkably stable.
Exactly. And the infrastructure capacity you build your server farms, your pipelines, is designed around those highly predictable macro trends, not the daily whims of a single user.
That is a huge distinction. The value is rooted in the platform commitment, not the rigidity of the monthly invoice.
You hit the nail on the head.
All right, so we have these 3 models: subscriptions, retainers, usage-based. But look, setting up a recurring billing system in Stripe takes a teenager about 20 minutes.
Yeah, tech is the easy part.
Right. Getting someone to agree to a monthly charge is one thing. Keeping them on the platform for years is an entirely different beast. What does the data tell us about where this actually falls apart in execution?
Well, the single biggest point of failure is when business owners treat recurring revenue as a pricing trick rather than an operational philosophy.
A pricing trick, like what?
Like taking a static product that genuinely should be a one-time purchase, slapping a $12 a month fee on it, and calling it a subscription.
Oh, yeah, we've all seen that. It's so frustrating.
Right, because if the customer isn't experiencing new, continuous value every single month, that friction we talked about earlier suddenly works against you. They will realize they are paying for nothing, and they will cancel.
Here is where it gets really interesting to me, though. The source material explicitly states that in recurring models, retention matters far more than new customer acquisition.
It absolutely does.
And honestly, that feels totally counterintuitive to standard business logic. If I have a massive addressable market, why wouldn't I just pour all my resources into my sales team and acquire as many logos as possible?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to the underlying math of customer lifetime value, or LTV, and the compounding destruction caused by churn.
Okay, let's break that math down for the listener.
Sure, let's move away from the cliche leaky bucket metaphor and look at this like a financial instrument. When you acquire a customer, you incur a customer acquisition cost, a CAC.
The sales and marketing spend.
Right. Let's say it costs you $500 in marketing and sales commissions to sign a new client. If they pay you $50 a month, it takes you 10 months just to break even on that one customer.
Yeah, you're basically just paying off the principal of the loan for the first 10 months.
Exactly. Now, what happens if your churn rate is high? Churn being the percentage of customers who cancel in a given time frame.
Okay.
If the average customer cancels after 8 months, you have lost $100 on every single sale. You are operating a machine that incinerates cash.
Wow. So you can double your sales team and acquire twice as many customers, but you're just burning money twice as fast.
Precisely. A high churn rate tells a potential buyer that the core product is fundamentally broken.
But what happens when you get retention right?
That's when the geometry of the business completely transforms. If that same customer stays with you for 5 years, paying $50 a month, their lifetime value is $3,000.
And after month 10, it's mostly profit.
Yes, that revenue is virtually pure profit minus your marginal delivery costs because the acquisition cost is fully amortized. But the real magic, the holy grail of valuation, is a concept called negative churn.
Negative churn. That sounds like an oxymoron. If churn is people leaving, how can it be negative?
It happens when the existing customers who stay end up spending more money with you over time.
Oh, like through upgrades or usage expansion?
Exactly. Or premium add-ons. They spend more than the revenue you lose from the customers who cancel.
Okay, give me an example with numbers so I can wrap my head around it.
Imagine you start the year with $100,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Over the year, 5% of your customers cancel.
So you lose 5 grand a month.
Right. But the remaining 95% upgrade their software packages, increasing their spend by 15%.
Wow. So your total revenue for the cohort actually grows, even though you lost customers.
Yes.
And that happens even if your sales team didn't sign a single new account all year.
Precisely. It behaves exactly like compound interest. When an acquiring company sees a business with negative churn and high LTV, they aren't just seeing a stable company.
What are they seeing?
They're seeing an autonomous growth engine. That is what commands the $50 million valuation on $10 million in revenue.
Okay, this is a perfect pivot point, because if the math of negative churn and high LTV is so overwhelmingly favorable, every business owner listening to this deep dive is going to want to make the switch.
I would hope so, yeah.
But let's ground this in reality. Say you, the listener, run a legacy B2B business. Let's imagine you run a commercial landscaping company. You do big, one-off installation projects, planting trees, laying hardscaping.
Very transactional work.
Totally transactional. How do you pivot to a recurring model without completely bankrupting your current cash flow during the transition?
It is a delicate, high-wire act. You cannot just flip a switch overnight. The Black Pagoda strategy emphasizes that a successful transition requires a holistic overhaul across 3 highly specific operational pillars:
And those are?
pricing, customer experience, and internal systems.
Okay, let's unpack mechanically, starting with pricing. It can't just be taking a $10,000 installation project and dividing it by 12 months.
Yeah, no, because that's just financing. That's not a recurring service.
Right.
True recurring pricing requires engineering a package where the ongoing fee feels like a no-brainer to the client, but scales profitably for you.
How does that look for a landscaping company?
So instead of just charging for a one-off installation, you introduce a comprehensive property management retainer. This covers seasonal planting, weekly maintenance, irrigation system checks, and guaranteed priority response after severe storms.
Oh, I see.
You price it so that your baseline operational costs are covered, guaranteeing your payroll while the margin comes from the predictable, optimized routing of your crews.
But to justify that ongoing fee, the customer experience, the second pillar, has to change radically, right?
It absolutely does.
Because in a one-time project, the CX is entirely front-loaded. You wine and dine the client, you do the big installation reveal, and then you essentially disappear until they call you 5 years later.
Exactly. And that old CX model will result in massive churn if you apply it to a retainer. In a recurring model, your customer experience must be continuous and proactive.
Proactive is the key word there.
Yes. You can't wait for the client to notice the grass is dying. You need dedicated account managers sending them monthly health reports on their soil, proactive updates on the irrigation schedule, and quarterly property reviews.
The customer needs to constantly be reminded of the invisible value you are delivering every single month.
Precisely. Because if they forget you're there, they'll inevitably look at their ledger and cut the expense.
Which perfectly tees up the third and probably most difficult pillar,
Yeah.
internal systems.
Yeah, delivering that kind of proactive experience at scale requires serious infrastructure.
It requires a complete digital transformation for most legacy businesses, doesn't it?
It really does. You need robust telemetry. For a software company, that means systems tracking how often a user logs in, what features they use, and triggering automated interventions if usage drops.
And for our landscaping company.
It means CRM systems that track every touch point, systems that automate those monthly soil reports, and flag accounts where the client hasn't spoken to an account manager in 90 days.
You need predictive analytics.
Yes. You need to identify the behavioral markers of a customer who is going to churn so you can save them before they actually click cancel.
So what does this all mean? Bringing this all together, how do you know if your organization is actually capable of surviving this transition to a recurring model?
This raises an important question, and it's frankly my favorite concept from the source material. It's the concept of business maturity.
Business maturity. I really love that framing. What does that actually look like in practice?
Transitioning to a recurring revenue model is not a marketing strategy. It is a profound signal that your business has grown up. It means you have successfully graduated from merely selling products to designing systems that perpetually deliver value.
Because an immature business just relies on hustle.
Exactly. It relies on the heroic efforts of a founder or a star sales rep, frantically scrambling to close the next big deal just to make payroll.
And a mature business.
A mature business is an orchestrated machine focused on nurturing a long-term relationship. When a buyer looks at a successful recurring revenue model, the predictable income is just the symptom.
What's the root cause?
The root cause they are actually valuing is the proof that your leadership, your operations, and your delivery mechanisms are highly sophisticated.
The revenue model acts as a mirror, reflecting the underlying operational excellence of the entire company.
Precisely.
And that operational excellence, that lack of reliance on the daily hunt, is exactly what reduces the buyer's risk and drives up the multiple they're willing to pay.
You've engineered a predictable, scalable asset. And that's what Black Pagoda helps companies build.
All right, let's pull all of these threads together and synthesize what we've unpacked for you today.
Sounds good.
The core mission of this deep dive was to understand the valuation paradox. Why predictable income fundamentally transforms the worth of a business. And the causal chain is incredibly clear.
It really is.
Predictability generates mathematical confidence. Confidence radically reduces risk for the buyer. And that reduction of risk is the invisible force that drives up the premium multiple.
Yeah, to summarize, we really charted the escape route from the exhausting, high-anxiety life of the hunter to the predictable, capital-efficient life of the orchard owner.
And we examined the mechanics of the three major models: subscriptions, retainers, and usage-based models.
Right. And as a key takeaway, we learned that the battle is entirely won or lost in the math of retention. Acquiring the customer is just the opening handshake.
It's all about delivering continuous, undeniable value.
Exactly. Keeping churn low, compounding customer lifetime value, and achieving negative churn that is the actual rigorous work of a recurring business.
It requires a strategic, mature overhaul of your pricing architecture, your continuous customer experience, and your predictive internal systems.
And for you listening right now, I want to emphasize that these concepts aren't just for software founders or investment bankers. Whether you are evaluating an investment, trying to scale your own small business, or honestly, just looking at your household budget and questioning your own monthly subscriptions, the principles of stable, predictable value exchange dictate the flow of capital everywhere.
It fundamentally changes how you perceive every transaction.
It really does.
Which brings me to a final lingering thought I want to leave you with today. Ponder this as you go about your week. Look closely at the ecosystem of businesses you interact with every single day. Look at the apps on your phone, the software tools you use for work, the companies that maintain your home or your car.
Yeah, pay attention to them.
Which of those businesses have quietly, masterfully transitioned you from a one-time transactional buyer into a highly predictable, recurring revenue stream without you even noticing? And more importantly, analyze the exact psychological and operational value they're delivering that keeps you from clicking cancel.
That's a great exercise.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. If you want to learn more about restructuring your revenue for scalability and long-term value, be sure to visit www.blackpagoda.com. We will catch you next time.